right, Brooke, how's it going today?
Conrad, how you doing, buddy? You doing all right? You got any big plans this weekend?
It's my son's birthday today, my son's ninth birthday. So it's very hard for me to fathom that it was 9 years ago today that we brought home a little 5 pound, 5.5 pound baby. And I was like, why are you giving this to us? We don't know how to take care of this thing. And here we are 9 years later. And I bought him a bunch of Pokemon cards. He already opened those. He's super excited. So to be 9, man, he's just so happy. It's just a fun time.
Does he, so just when we're recording this, today's Pi Day, 3/14. So does he really get into Pi Day? Does he memorize the pi to the 20th decimal point?
So here's the thing. I've tried to get him into that a little bit, but he doesn't really know what pi is in the context of mathematical, formulas yet. So I'm thinking maybe he'll get into that a little bit later. He loves math though. He's definitely into his math teacher class and at school. He's been enjoying that for sure. I think he's got a brain a little bit like mine and his mom's a little bit. His mom's good at math too, my wife. So that's a good thing. But we haven't fully gone into that theme quite yet. I think it's coming though. It hasn't happened yet, but I think it's coming. That's my thought process.
So here's a fun fact. I'm sure you probably already know this, but I just heard this morning. Today is also Albert Einstein's birthday.
Mm-hmm. And
so
Steph
he
Curry.
shares a birthday with Einstein and Steph Curry.
Yeah. So just a random collection of people. I've always believed that who you're sharing your birthday with is a really fun icebreaker if you ever meet that person. For me, it's Angelina Jolie. She and I have the same birthday. If we ever meet, that's my icebreaker. I don't know if it'll go well beyond that, but that's my icebreaker at least. So Albert Einstein, Julian O'Connell, Steph Curry, all basically same in my mind as far as importance. So I'll get there. But yeah, that's what's going on in my house.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about our guest today.
Absolutely. Me too. Well, Dana, welcome. I'm excited to have you with us here today. I don't think it's your birthday, but you told us you got some crazy weather going on. So what's happening? What's happening in your world? We'd love to hear more about what's going on there in the Tahoe area.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. And yes, it's snowing. We've got quite a bit of snow, probably over a foot at this point, more coming down. And happy birthday to your son. My daughter just turned 10 this year, and same sentiments. I did not know how 10 years even went by. And I remember at the hospital when they're sending us home, I'm looking at her and I go, oh, shoot, this is not a pair of shoes that when I get tired, I can return them. Or if they don't fit or I don't like them, I can return them. This is with me forever. So that's when the realization hit. Okay, I got this this little person here. It's staying with me. Yeah, kids are amazing.
Yeah, they also tell you having a pet is similar to having a child. No, it is not. You can leave your dog in a cage and walk out and go for a walk or do whatever. You can't do that with a child. If you do, you get a little knock on your door from the police or something. It's not the same thing at all. But I digress. Well, Dana, for the listener, you mentioned Tahoe. Would you mind though, just a little bit more background about your vacation rental company, Tahoe Signature Properties, how you got in that space, just more of your kind of origin story before we dive into your mistakes?
Well, Tahoe Signature Properties has been around since 2012, I believe, is when I started it. I started doing accounting for a company in the area in 2008, I believe, and that's where I got my introduction to the property management and vacation rental world. At the time, it was, very initial stages of vacation rentals, at least here in Tahoe. People were doing them on paper, no credit cards, checks were sent in and things like that, picking up keys at the office, the whole, you guys know. But as the internet was taking off, I saw that this, a whole new industry forming, because you couldn't really do long-term and vacation rentals at the same time. One was needing a completely different strategy, different tools, different marketing, different everything than the other. And I also saw the potential, obviously, by doing accounting for other people. So decided to start my own, and that's how Tahoe Signature Properties came to be. We manage about 50 higher-end properties in Truckee and North Lake Tahoe, and that's about it.
Nice. Awesome. And I know you mentioned before we got started here a little bit about maybe your connection with Brooke and how you guys had signed up for Vintory, became a customer, met at NWVRP. What's your kind of recollection of that from your side, Brooke?
Yeah, I remember we were at a conference at Northwest VRP, I think in Boise, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was even somewhere else. But anyways, I remember trying to hand Dana a book. And I think her response was, no, I already have it. And by the way, we're already a customer. And I was obviously very embarrassed, that I didn't know that, so, but that was the beginning of our relationship. And then she was nice enough to go on a couple panels that we hosted. and said great things about Vintory along the way. So we're very grateful for that. So I'll never make that mistake again, for sure, Dave. I promise you that.
Know your 5,000 customers.
Not that many, but yeah.
Yeah, uh-huh.
That's a problem. And the way I think about it sometimes too, Brooke, is there might be 4 or 5 people at some of these larger companies that I might interact with. So even if you only have 100 customers, you're going to have 500 people you're trying to keep in your brain straight, and that's pretty hard to do. Maybe a president can do it, but I don't know.
And I feel like I have face amnesia too very often, so I'm not very good at remembering names and faces. So it gets me in trouble. So I'm sure people will come up to me in conference, "Hey, Brooke, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, good to see you again."
I think isn't that who's the president that did that? Was it Clinton, where he'd shake your hand, look you in the eye, and go, "How's your back doing?" Because everyone had a back problem or something like that. I think my dad told me that story one time. I don't even know if it's true, but I think it's a good one. So.
How's your back?
Yeah, or how's the kids? Almost always hit on that one. You might miss every once in a while, but usually you're going to hit it right. So. Yeah, that's good. Well, awesome. Well, Dana, let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about the mistakes, because you've grown a lot. You're in such an interesting market, so I think we're going to explore that as we go along here. But we're going to go through these top 10 mistakes and see what we can learn. So, number 1, not establishing standards for new homes. So initially, maybe there wasn't clear standards in the homes that you onboard from the start, and that can lead to very different quality and operational challenges. So maybe walk me through that today. How do you find the right home standard that you're setting going forward, and how have you made sure that you brought the right inventory into your program?
That was learn as you go type of situation, right? 2012, that's 13 years ago. Most of the homes around here were your old style Tahoe cabins. Not many new builds, not much going on as far as that. So we started picking up homes here and there, and some were nicer than others, but not necessarily having a direction per se. And then I noticed along the way that we would have a client stay at one of the nicer homes. Yay, great stay, 5-star, thank you, you guys are awesome. And then next time they would book a different type of property, right? Obviously there's a price difference, but that doesn't much matter. What your guest goes home with is with the experience they had. And then with here different. Oh, not really a Tahoe Signature Property this time around. And it got me thinking, I'm like, okay, if this is coming around, and I've heard a couple times, we got to do something. So we had to sit down and kind of define. If you go to the website, it says our criteria for new homes now is properties that have been built or fully remodeled in the last 10 years or have a cool architecture. So that's kind of what we try to stay with. And every time we visit a new property and consider bringing it on, which is why we only have about 50 homes. It's hard to grow when you have standards.
Yeah.
Especially up here.
Are you ultimately the one that makes that call? Like, do you have like a sales rep, a business development rep that's signing on properties, and then she'll bring them to you, and you guys have to battle back and forth whether or not the property is, approvable or not into your program?
That's kind of how it works. Yes. Joseph will have the initial conversation and send the homeowner to me. We just had this talk the other day. Joseph, get the address, Joseph. I'm not spending another hour on a phone with the homeowner just to find out that the property doesn't meet. It's not really, obviously my time is important too, but I'm also wasting that person's time when I could have told them from the get-go, I'm so sorry, but we're not going to be the right fit for you, right? And then I find people get frustrated too, because you go on a whole hour of this is how great we are just to find out in the end, sorry, we're not going to do it. So anyhow, fine-tuning things as far as that goes, but yes.
I'm curious, do you give like a checklist of things? Like, let's say the property's on the edge, you know what I mean? Would you give them a list of like things, hey, if you do these things, that would be, acceptable to our rental program?
100%. Yeah. In fact, we're just onboarding a property right now, and the owners finally decided to give it to us to finish things. Just a complete overhaul. It's been remodeled, but they chose some furnishings and some items that are not going to work. So taking over, refurnishing, redoing everything, and putting it on the market. And even if a property needs a full remodel, would still go back to the homeowner and let them know that, hey, if you do these things, this is how much the home might bring you in rental income opposed to where you are today. And I've had homeowners that came back a couple years later and said, you told me to do this a couple years ago, here I am. So it helps, but it doesn't necessarily with everybody.
Yeah. when I was down in Orlando working for that vacation rental management company, they were super strict. I mean, they would only take the best of the best, the top 1% of all properties. We actually owned an interior design company as well. And you want to talk about like a threshold to have to get over and a hurdle to get over. So every time I would go out there, I would sell the owner on our program and why we were so much better.
Right.
We then had to send our interior design company out to their home. And their interior design company would like give them literally a punch list of everything that was needed. And very often it was 20, 30, 40, 50, $75,000 worth of like furnishings and work just to make it into our rental program. So it's like, not only am I selling, hey, we're the best management company, but you got to drop $75,000 to come into our rental program. So it was like a double sell. But it worked. I mean, you had to differentiate, especially in that market. It's so competitive. I know, Conrad, you've seen, the homes and how tricked out they are over there with the theme rooms and the arcades and the game rooms. And the whole thesis behind that was like, we didn't want to take on a property unless we knew it was going to be successful. And we did that, but we would do the same thing. We would show how that property would perform with those improvements. But that was a challenging sell. Like I felt like I was selling for the interior design company too.
This January, my husband and I finished our own house. Well, our own vacation rental here in Tahoe. So it's, interestingly enough, it's becoming a little bit easier to sell homeowners into something that you have done yourself and have an example of that, right? Okay, we don't want to make our house pet friendly. Sorry, but it's a hard no. Well, here's the difference. And, the property we have is higher end and it's a nice house. And this is how much this house is bringing. So unless you want to make only this much, yeah. So when they see that you make your own property pet friendly, they're more willing to do those things. When you see that you invested a certain amount of money in your own property and it's performing, they're also willing to do those things. So it almost creates a little competition in a sense. Oh, look at this house. Maybe I want mine to look the same. Why couldn't I do this? So yeah, it's interesting. It's opened up a different, what's the word? Maybe a different approach in the way I'm doing this. But yeah, it's interesting.
That's a great point. My when I was at Vantage, my business partner owned many vacation homes himself, and they were in our rental program, of course. But he would go to the nth degree to decorate these homes and trick them out. And we would show the performance. And because we were in Ocean City, obviously many different buildings, but he had I feel like he had like one condo in almost every single building in that area. And we would show specifically, hey, this property did X. Your property did Y. What's the difference? Well, let's look at it. And it wasn't we were promoting it. If anything, it's the consumer, the guest, chose it, but they chose it because it showed really, really well. But it was a great upsell opportunity to say, hey, if you do this to your property, look at that delta, look at that difference that you can get in rental income. And it was a great way to get them to upgrade to do it.
100%. Now I'm telling my husband, let's get more.
Hey, if it's doing well, right? That's the goal.
Now I need a 2-bedroom and I need a 1-bedroom too. Let's go for it.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I've seen a little bit recently, Brooke, is just agreeing on a base set of amenities, which sounds so simple. What's the base set of amenities every property has? But we have a client up in the Outer Banks who didn't have a coffee maker in every property, so it was small stuff. He didn't have a TV in every room, every bedroom. That was an upgrade that took a little while just to get people to agree to that. Every condo now that has a deck has a hot tub on it. It took them a while to kind of go through and get the hot tubs installed. Another property manager I know, a mutual of ours, Brooke, up in like the West Virginia market, hot tub in every property. He had a few holdouts and he had to convince them. So, but then he can say every property has a hot tub, every property has a coffee maker, every property has a smart TV in every single bedroom. Like he was able to go through and say like these are our standard amenities. Every property meets the standard, and I think that's such a valuable thing.
I love that. But that's going to, in many cases, going to take a little bit of time to get to do that. Out of the gates. Yeah.
It's sometimes surprising to me. People holding back on the inexpensive upgrades. The expensive ones, I get it. People may not have the $7,000 for the hot tub and this and that, but the inexpensive upgrades, people dragging their feet always surprise me a little bit. But owners are a diverse bunch, as I'm sure you're aware and deal with all the time, Dana. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, number two, going a different direction, talks more about the people side of the business, hiring. So number two, not hiring proactively. So hiring in advance, make sure that you have the team members that are fully trained, prepared, ready to go for their roles. Waiting until the last minute often results in rush onboarding and added stress for everybody involved. So you're in probably a busier season right now, I would imagine. What's kind of been your hiring process like this season? How have you maybe improved it as you've gone along in the business?
We have a couple of years, probably about 5 years ago. It was just me and somebody else in the office, my assistant. And, I'm a goal oriented person. Beginning of the year, this year, we're bringing on 20 homes. Said and done. We did it. But we found out fast enough that just the two of us in doing the day-to-day operations, obviously we, have vendors that we hire and all that, but that was not an easy task, and we didn't do a good job at it. And sure enough, okay, changing strategy for if I know I'm going into a expansion mode, which we are now, I made sure that we have everybody on board and even more um, to be able to handle that workload. Because I've seen what happened in the past. It isn't fun when you can't keep up and you're selling that owner a service that you are not able to uphold. That's the worst, in my opinion. So yeah, that's you got to have the right team in place and have it. I don't care if I have to pay somebody months of them just sitting there. I know that when it gets to the point of them stepping in, they're 100% ready, and the team is not struggling to get through the day to day. And also, we're able to grow at the same time.
Well, and also if you're hiring from almost like fear, right? If you're scrambling to fill those seats, you end up lowering your bar. You almost just need somebody that is a warm body. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you end up lowering that bar as far as who you normally hire. Where if you are a little bit more proactive and you
Mhm.
can hire them in advance, you're going to be a little bit stricter on it. But it is it is it's not refreshing to have somebody just sit there, But I'm sure, look, you're busy. I'm sure you always have them do something, and I'm sure there's a training process you can do during that to kind of.
100%. But I've seen both sides of the coin. If I had to choose, I choose somebody sitting there than us not being able to handle the business or the amount of homes that are coming our way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, your next one, Dana, maybe I'll fold it into my follow up question here, was about personality assessments and doing things like predictive index and those types of assessments. As you begin to find those right people and bring them into the business, is that one tool that you've helped to find the people that would be the good fit for that role that you're looking for?
100%. Honestly, just learning about it, it kind of opened up a whole different world. Because with, I don't know, a household, a friendship group, people gather together for a reason, right? It's the same in a business. There has to be a certain level of cooperation between people, and them being able to work together and have the right personalities for the job. Um, Also have the skill set. Well, I guess the skill set you can train for, but number one, I would say personality and making sure that they can be a good fit for your team. PI is a good test, I think. The DISC has been too. So everybody that's coming on the team right now, it's funny. First thing, I don't even look at the application. The first thing that I open is the PI test to see where they fall. And okay, this is a good one. Let's go see what the application looks like, and then we meet the person. So it kind of changed even the whole idea of hiring and how we proceed and how we do it. But it's definitely helped quite a bit to make sure that you have the right people in the right places and the right seats, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've talked about this in just about every episode, Dana, so I won't beat a dead horse here. But no, I love what you say about looking at their profile first. I agree. I look at their profile first before I look at the resume and experiences. It's because it's probably the most important factor. It's a great data point. So I'm right there with you.
That comment that Dana had a moment ago, Brooke, about looking at their profile first. I'm like, I feel like you've said that to me before, Brooke, or like you'll introduce people as their profile. You'd be like, here's John, by the way, he's a XYZ. It's like the way that you get to know somebody.
My wife gives me a hard time because when I see people, I actually, on their foreheads, I know their dots where they're located. and I'll like, oh yeah, they're a tech expert with a eye of 9, and like describing them. Like, that's how I like remember them. And it's kind of crazy, that I can remember people's profiles like that, but it's pretty cool. It's cool, pretty cool party trick.
Yeah, well, it's good to understand people as well and put them in the right spot to succeed. So yeah, well, Dana, I'll keep my follow ups going and we'll keep punching off the list here. But I think it's a good follow up. So number 4 is not challenging the local only mindset. So believing that all team members need to be local to excel can limit your talent pool. So you're obviously in like a more remote destination. I imagine there's not a massive pool of people, in Tahoe and even more specifically in the Truckee North Lake Tahoe area that you can hire even if you wanted to and they were the right personal profile. So what's been the roles that you found you can find talent elsewhere, and what's been your process for finding people in other places around the world?
I feel like this has evolved too with obviously technology and everything. Because 10 years ago, I don't think anybody was doing it. um, I have an accountant that's in Ireland, and a reservation specialist in Philippines right now. Finding them, well, that's online. The second I'm going to hire from Philippines, the current employee is recommending. So just getting your feet wet, I guess, is big. But same process, really. We get them through the testing uh, first, and making sure that they qualify, and then take it from there. Um, some people require a little bit more training than others and a little bit more hand holding. It kind of depends if you are lucky enough to find somebody that has experience in the industry. The most recent hire, we really didn't have to do much. We trained him for a week, and the second week he was looking at us like, seriously, can you just put me to work now? And other people just, it kind of depends. But having the right tools in place, and communication, and being able to answer their questions right away, and just, yeah, that's been probably one of the things that's helped the most, is being able to be there for them when they need you and answer the questions they have. So technology is the key. That's But as I said, 10 years ago, I couldn't even, it wasn't even, not even an idea that this would be possible. Because the way people were doing business in the past, you'd have your accountant sitting next to you in the next room, right? Not even part-time, or maybe not part-time, but they're coming to your office to get the job done. And these days it completely changed everything. And COVID probably is a major factor to that. But I'm glad it happened, because there's a lot of talented people out there. Just go find them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dana, you must have read my mistakes, because I actually had this on for one of my mistakes, and I said the same thing, where we had all of our team members were there locally, like in Ocean City, and unfortunately, in resort markets, it's really challenging to hire people. Obviously, the cost of living is really high. You know what I mean? The talent pool is usually, I feel like they're either a beach bum or a ski bum, or they're retired. You know what I mean, with a lot of money that's living there. So it's really hard. And I think Steve Trover, called this. It's not a talent pool; it's a talent puddle. You know what I mean? It's a very, very small amount of people that that you can hire. So I wish now here at Vintory we've made changes on that. We've got every single person is remote. We've hired internationally. We've got about 10 team members that are international. But yeah, like I didn't need my guest services team there. I didn't need my reservations team there. I didn't need my accountant there. I didn't need of course, you obviously need like your GM, and you need maybe some of the business development. In some cases, you don't even need the business development people there. But
Right.
yeah, it was a mistake I made, and it really kind of narrowed down your talent pool that you could recruit from, and therefore, just by sheer numbers, you're not obviously hiring the best people if you have just a couple people to choose from.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the obviously a lot of Filipino based people that have worked in short term rental vacational industry at this point. Many of them have actually worked for Airbnb, which is always interesting to see someone be in the Airbnb support team and then end up working for a vacational company
Yeah.
because they got some inside info maybe that we don't always have access to. I've seen that a few times. But I know they had a typhoon a little while ago, and I'm like, oh man, the vacational industry is going to get brought to its knees. The internet access got cut off to the Philippines. I hope everyone's okay, first of all, and then second of all, oh boy, like some companies we work at, they're going to be in some trouble because they got a half dozen people over there running a lot of stuff for them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Good point.
definitely the way it's gone. Awesome. Well, number 5, then, Dana, we'll keep going here. Not prioritizing team well-being over difficult clients. So delaying the decision to part ways with a problematic homeowner can definitely take a toll on the team and kind of their overall approach to, working there. How do you make sure that you find the right balance when you got those team members and you find the right people and you got them there? How do you make sure that you find the right balance between trying to keep a homeowner happy, but also trying to feel like what's reasonable with how they treat you and the team and those different pieces of the puzzle?
There isn't a homeowner that's worth more than my team. Haven't found it yet. probably me, but
You could be a bad owner. It's okay. But yeah, nobody else can.
no, um, it puts such a huge damper on the team's morale. And actually, I just had to let go of one last week. Constant nagging of this and that. There has to be some reason, right? When people are unreasonable and everything's not right, and my couch pillows were not right, and this and the other, it's just not worth it, and it's not. Let them go fast, and your team is going to be much better for it. And it just, yeah, emotionally and mentally, and it takes a big toll. So it's not worth it. It was hard for me to, because it's hard to let go of relationships. It's hard to say, okay, I'm done. Right? I'm not the type of person. I normally give people many chances. But when you see your team suffering for it, that's an easy one. So, yeah.
It's a common one, Brooke. It's one of, we got a
I
great assist
mean,
album, Dana, and this
like,
one's on it. That's for sure.
Dana, like I think like 90% of the people we've had on the podcast have said the exact same thing. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to just repeat it, but it's like Andrew with Joseph Allen Properties. The term "fire quickly" applies to owners as well. Jody Taylor Fosco said, don't wait too long to fire an owner if you're feeling frustrated with them. So your employees, if anyone's badgering your staff with unrealistic expectations, cut them loose. You are better off, and they may be too. So it's
Right.
this one. I mean, this is why I think this book is so important. I think everybody that is just launching a company needs to read this, because they'll see these common mistakes that everyone's making, and hopefully not make them. But it might be one of those things that they end up making them. They have to make them to actually learn. Easier said than done.
I know one thing that's up in my own business, Brooke, unfortunately, is that they don't reveal themselves right away. So like during the initial process of onboarding and getting going, things are going smooth. We're communicating well. They're happy. We're happy. And then all of a sudden, 90 days later, it's like a heel turn. And it's like, wait, what happened? Like we were on a good track. And then all of a sudden, it seems like we got off the right track, onto the wrong track here. And that's frustrating. But I guess to reinforce your point, Brooke, when you see everybody else has the same problems, you go, oh, okay, well, that makes me feel better. Like, am I the problem? Like you start to second guess yourself at times. And then you realize, oh no, this is a very common issue when you deal with 100 homeowners or 50 homeowners, whatever the case may be. Just odds are, a handful of them are going to be really difficult people to deal with. But then if you let them go, I think you bring a lot of leadership capabilities when you do that, Dana, because your team will love you for it. That I know. I fired a client a little while ago, and my team was celebrating. They're like, thank you, for so much. And they know it hurt us in billings. They know it was a blow financially, but it was just one of those things where they were so happy we let that person go. And then it frees up their time, right? They go work on the clients that are happy, that are engaged, they're happier, they're doing a better job. And then we found a new customer to replace them who we like working with, right? Yep. So it's like, that's part of it too, is that you free up their time and they're happier for sure on the backside.
Well, let me kind of ask a follow-up question, Dana. Like, do you have anything on the front end of this that you ask? Like, are you asking those owners, are you interviewing them and just trying to flush this out and deciding if they are a good fit or not?
Well, the other interesting part about just the most recent homeowner that I let go of is we did go through all the things. And there was just nodding and yes, I can do this. And yeah, right. And then you get into working with them and it's a completely different. So, and I like to think of myself of a good, what's the word? Assessing,
like character.
I'm good at judging, yeah, to a certain degree, right? No, not even I could get that part. So it's hard. It's you never know. You never know what people are gonna turn around and do. But yeah, we do go through because we have certain expectations as well, right? It's not just this are our services and this is what we do. We have expectations of our homeowners as well. And once certain lines are crossed, then sorry, can do. So.
I know one thing that happened to us a little while ago, Brooke. We had a client who, long story short, was going through a personal issue, a divorce. And he was a great client. And then things were going very poorly for a while. And I got on the phone with him at one point and I'm like, again, same kind of thing. Like, what happened here? I learned about that. And I kind of gave him some grace. I'm like, all right, that's tough. Like, that's a tough situation. 30, 60 days later, he's feeling better. Things are back now and we enjoy working with him and all is well. Right. So like, I also try to be empathetic, like, in some situations, but some people, you're right, Dana, they become something different than whatever you thought they were. You thought they were, a lamb and they turned out to be a dragon or something. I don't know, just maybe you didn't expect. So it's problematic, but Yeah, as you find those right people, it's it's important to keep the good ones and move on from the bad ones quickly, as we've discussed to your point, Brooke.
True.
Number 6 here, going a different direction, more on the software or kind of the back end tech stack side of things. Number 6 on your list here, Dana, was not investing in robust property management software early. Maybe at one point you picked the wrong software, later kind of made some different investments to pick the right software. What was that process like? How'd you kind of go through the change of eventually finding maybe the right software for you and your business?
Is there even such a word as the right software? Does it exist?
The best one for you, maybe. Yeah, we don't want to upset any of our PMS vendor friends. They're
Not at all. No. It's definitely a hard decision to make. And we've moved a couple times now, and I didn't make the perfect decision the last time either. So yeah, which is why my initial comment. But if I were to do it all over again, I'd probably start with the better software from the get-go. Obviously, as you grow, needs change. And I just found myself in a position of changing software more often than I should have. Have I made different decisions from the beginning? Even if it was financially costing more, a transition costs you probably a lot more than having to pay that monthly subscription. And a transition is not completely done in those 30 or 60 days. It actually takes you a full year to have everybody on board, all your systems dialed in, learn the new system. And so it takes a lot more than just what they say it would take. If I had to do it all over again, get a better one from the get-go and stick with it for as long as you can and then move.
Well, and it's also like we have a saying at Vintory, slow down. It's called one of our core values, bias for action. Slow down the big decisions, speed up the rest. And this is one of those decisions I think you should take the time, go through the process, hire a consultant if you can, if that understands this, and really just bring in your team, like to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with it. I remember when I had Vantage and I was going through the due diligence process, not only did I obviously ask for the referrals and references, but I said, give me the last 5 installs you've done. I wanted to personally reach out to them. You know what I mean? Because then it's not a cherry picked list. Because if you get this wrong, like you said, I mean, my former boss used to call like a PMS transition as like 2 root canals a week, and it's painful and you do not want to do it twice. And it's so funny. I was talking to an exec at one of the large property management software systems just a couple days ago, and they were bragging about their retention rate. And I was like, I'm sitting there thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think they're bragging because I don't think the retention is that great. I think it's just because people don't want to leave, even if they hate them. they can't stand them. They just don't want to leave. They don't want to go through that 2 root canals a week. That's why your retention was high, not necessarily because your product's great.
But the piece that I don't think is explained well enough in the industry is your software. When you switch software, you don't just switch software. You have to change your website to a certain degree. Oh, yeah. All the plugins that go with that. And sometimes it's not just a plugin. Sometimes it's a whole new website. So you don't necessarily know when you go into it, the ramification and the implication of it. And it ends up being a lot, really, financially and also, work hours.
And Conrad, the SEO sometimes drop if it isn't done perfectly. Right. And it's this weird black box, you know what I mean? Where, you don't know what's happening. Like I knew someone that he swore they lost $1 million from their PMS transition because of the drop in SEO after the transition.
Years ago when I was at the previous agency I worked for, I promise you, I have a case study that's worse than that, or like a battle scar worse than that. We did website redesign. Client did a new PMS at the same time, and it was a large property manager in a East Coast beach market. I won't be too specific, and I know for a fact they lost over $2 million in January and February of that year because those were their peak booking months. This would have been back in 2016. And I remember that to this day. And it, like, as horrible as that was, the company's doing well now and they're fine. And whatever, small things happened. Hopefully it's, long ago in the rearview mirror. But I watching that happen and seeing how poorly that website launch went as far as like usability and concerns and PMS issues and stuff. It's like the cut of my thumb here. I don't forget about it. I cut super deep when I was a kid and I never want to ever mess with a knife ever again, because that's what it's like to do a PMS change, maybe on the marketing side. And, I admit that I've done a lot of these site migrations, and I think I have a pretty solid process on my side of things, but not to be egotistical, but like I'm a luxury. I realize that like not every single PMS company has the ability to go hire someone who's going to go through with a fine tooth comb every single thing when launching a website. And it's not something that maybe people think about. And I guess that the battle I have a little bit recently is that sometimes these PMS companies aren't as solid as they say they are in going through the migration process. All right, Dana, awesome. So we'll head over to number 7 here. Not avoiding shiny object syndrome. Again, another one of our greatest hits with software. I know we just talked about software in the last block, but although it's about finding the right software, it's not about adopting every single tool in the market because it's trendy and maybe someone else is using it. So walk me through how when you find the right software, you don't get hopefully too distracted in looking at other stuff that maybe is not going to help you or serve your business.
So I've done all of those things.
You bought everything, huh?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, not everything, but almost, right? And then I could see how my team is getting overwhelmed from trying to learn all the new tools. And we ended up maybe some of them not even using because they didn't make sense. So now we really, if I could just use one piece of software to run my entire operation, I'd be so happy. It's not possible, unfortunately. So I really try to go into depth and have my team trained all the way on whatever we implement, either be a new property management software or whatever the case might be. And then if it's really, really needed and our property management software is not capable of doing it, then let's look at other stuff. But what we found ourselves doing in the past is we didn't really take the time to learn that piece of software all the way. And we went out and bought all these other pieces that didn't even integrate, created more work, more headache, more room for error. So yeah, just really every time someone calls me now to sell me on a product, I'm like, not interested. No, thank you. I do not even want to hear about it because I know I'll be tempted. So I kind of created that.
Well, I'm glad we broke into you, Dana, until before you had this new requirement and you had to sign up with us. So I don't know if it was my personality or what, but I'm glad you signed up. Yes.
Thank you.
No,
the garage door was closing, Brooke, and you just like slipped in there right before the garage door closed.
Slid in, yes. No, it's you said it. This is like the greatest hits. I think we should probably do an episode, Conrad, of literally just the greatest hits.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen. We're going to do that.
My favorite quote with this coming about the chasing shiny objects, not necessarily related to software per se, but just in general, best chasing shiny objects was Dustin Abney with Portoro. He said, letting yourself get distracted, shiny object syndrome. As he pointed out, it's imperative to stay true to your niche or your focus. If it's not an F yes, I'll let you fill that in. It's probably a no. Sacrificing your values and getting distracted will take you down the wrong path. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like every VRMA at the vendor hall, there's all these different, and again, we're one of them, but there's always like a different new software vendor you can go down and sign up with. And look, some of them will make you more efficient, but a lot of it is just a distraction. I think as Mike Harrington said at one point, Conrad, correct me if I'm wrong, he would always come back from VRMAs with signing up with 2 or 3 new products, and his team hated him for it. It's like every time he came back, they're like, oh boy, here comes Mike. Mike just got back from VRMA. Let's see how many things he signed up for,
Yeah.
Don't let him go next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's the funny thing about shiny object. I'm assuming this is, I don't even know. I tried to Google the origin of that term originally, but I'm pretty sure it's like that's what crows do, right? Crows look for shiny objects. So we're basically admitting like our brain works like a reptile or like a bird,
or a fish,
where we just
fish.
or
like,
a fish or something.
It's a lure, right?
Yeah. So we're basically admitting like it's our lower level of brain function working, and not our high level of brain function where it's like reasoning and thought and trade-offs and those sorts of things. So it's even like inherent in the name itself is like you kind of know that's a bad idea. The fish shouldn't bite the shiny object because you know what's on it? A hook that's going to rip your mouth out and hurt you. So,
the funny part, they come with a lot of information. So you sit down with a new vendor, right? Oh, we can do this and that, and this is what our system does. If you actually go back and look, you probably are capable to do those same things with the tools you already have. You just never thought of it that way. So I'm a little bit of reverse, right? Going back to, and once we started doing that, if there's anything else we sign up with, is going to be a tool that we actually do need, and that the systems we have in place now aren't capable of doing it. Or I'm letting go of something that we have now and replacing it completely. That's a different story. But no, I think as far as tech stack, thank you very much. Don't call me. I will not sign up with anything else.
I'll make sure I mention that to my competitors. So for you.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
thank you.
Didn't know you have them.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
This is true.
Perfect.
Good point. Good point.
Nice. I like that. Well, awesome. Maybe we touched on this one earlier, Dana. Number 8 was not trusting your team. It maybe ties into this conversation we had a few blocks back about finding the right people and make sure when they're there you have the right resources available. You're not overloading them and so on and so forth. But maybe just a closing note on that one. Not trusting the team. How have you found? I guess like it's delegation, but it's also giving them, hey, you're responsible for this. I trust you'll get it done. How have you improved that side of the management side of your business?
I think running a small business, probably most of us do it because you tend to think that nobody can do it better than you do, right? With either running your business by yourself for a couple of years or having a small team. So there's a lot of self-development work that is done before you get to that point, I feel like. Or you get so overworked that you hit a wall where you decide, okay, I either do this or my life is going down the where. So to me it was kind of I think a mix of both, really, because having young kids when I started the business, I needed some flexibility and I needed help and I needed to let go of control and let go of I can do everything. And then once we started finding actual good team players, good team members, kind of dividing roles and making sure that every person that we hire is in the right seat, things kind of become easier and what you can delegate where. So, and you have to empower your team with tools for them to do their job and knowing exactly how much, say it's the reservations person, hey, if you have to do a refund to $100 or whatever that is to make a guest happy, just go ahead and do it and don't even come to me. I'm not interested in knowing, right? A lot less things come on my desk when you empower your team with this is how much flexibility you have, and they know that that's what that is and they go for it, right? Same goes for everybody else on your team. And then there's just a handful of issues that come on your plate that way because they are empowered and they have the right tools and they know where the limits are, I guess. I don't know if you call them limits, but anyhow, that you get the gist.
Yeah, it's giving them the framework, right? Give them the framework, give them the proverbial bumpers on the bowling alley, and guide them in what the decisions that they can make, and up to a certain discretion. Like we have with our team, like our marketing strategists have a certain number of what they can give refunds without coming to their superior. Steve Schwab does this, I think, really well with Casago. Like he says, in the absence of information, like fall back to our values and our principles, and use those as your guiding light. At least you have some kind of framework of what that looks like. So,
yep, makes sense.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I think I will skip number 9 because I think we've said this. Place people in the right roles. So I'll read for the benefit of the listener, but not placing the right people in the right roles. We talked about that previously, I would say, on the on that side of things. So number 10, it's a fun one to bring us home here. And number 10, not focusing on growth over day-to-day operations. I think this is one I can resonate with a lot, Dana. I'm one that tends to come back to the work and come back to the clients we already have. And oh goodness, I want to take care of these people. And how do we find that balance between that and also finding new customers, new growth? Because clients churn for a lot of reasons. So we got to make sure we have new stuff coming in. How's kind of been your journey here, and how do you block your time, or how do you block your priorities as far as making sure you're also focusing on growth and getting more homes with, yes, the day-to-day that has to occur as well?
Well, so goes back to number 9. Unless you have the right people in the right spots, you're not going to be able to take that time to grow, right? If you're the person that's the one that's doing business development. But lately I've been finding out that, hey, if I stay home and work from home for the day, I get so much more done. I wonder why. I love my team and it's fun going in and chatting with everybody and, being there and all that. But then a couple hours into it and I haven't done 3 tasks on my list for the day. So setting those boundaries and having blocks of times where you can get stuff done is very important. When it comes to business development, obviously there's a lot more to it. So you really have to, draft time and take time out of your day to concentrate on just that alone, or otherwise it's not happening. And me setting goals of I'm getting 20 homes this year, probably not getting even 5, because if I'm going to work every day and not taking that block of time to do this part of the job, nobody's going to do it. So just not happening.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is a big one. Look, there's a million things that you can do in a given day, right? Like you'll never get to the bottom of your email box. I'm sure there's a whole list of like little things that you can do in the grand scheme of things that don't move the needle, but they're important, but not urgent, or they're, or vice versa. So it's like, what can you do to kind of actually make that progress? And the framework and the hack that I've kind of come up with that's actually really helped me on this, because when I first launched Vantage, I had this problem. But what I did is I would set my annual goals and my quarterly, rocks, leveraging the EOS system. Mm-hmm. And I did something called my 6 things. And I would write at the beginning of the day, and I was like, it was 6 things that were tied to my annual rocks or my annual goals or my quarterly rocks. And it could be just one step, just one, just get me one step closer towards those. And I would not leave unless I did those 6 things. Now, you're going to fill in all the rest of the day with those little tasks that you talk about, right? You're going to have to respond to emails. You're going to have to respond to phone calls. You're going to have to, answer questions from your team. But again, at the end of the day, did you accomplish anything that moved you closer towards your goals? And what I found was very often I didn't, unless I did, use this framework and this system of the 6 things. So at least it got me one step closer to those big rocks. And before you know it, those little tiny steps actually start making progress on the big rocks and the big annual goals.
100%. This is I have a task, a list for the day, the night before or the morning of. And I have one thing that I do for myself, and that's not non-negotiable. There's got to be one thing that I do for myself that day, and there's got to be one thing that I do that's going to move the needle. And those are the 2 things that I have to accomplish that day, no matter what. And then obviously the rest of the time is filled with everything else. And sometimes just, getting going in the morning when nobody's up and getting done one of those things, be it I go working out, or maybe this morning I feel like working on the computer and maybe I feel creative. So I'll jump on doing some of that work. But yeah, it's you have to craft the time. If you don't, it's not going to get done. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. There's a Dan Kennedy thing. I don't know if you read any of his books, Dana. He's like a business author, and he talks a lot about Today Bank and Future Bank. That's one concept that I really latched onto a while ago. So Today Bank is like, I got to do things to make the payroll on Friday, right? Like that's just stuff I have to do today. I can't ignore my current owners, current guests, that sort of thing in that scenario. But his thing is do one thing every day for Future Bank, which is basically like, in his mind, that's kind of like business development. So one action I do today will end up causing me future bank deposits, but I don't always have the chance to do it if I don't think about it or have something. So for me, it's like I try to post on LinkedIn every day, for example. So what I end up doing is like I block a few hours, do a few weeks of posts at a time, and then I don't have to think about it every day. But there's also like an email campaign, go ping an old lead, like I had a lead that I pinged this morning that I was like, kind of fizzled out, didn't close. So I kind of pinged them and said, hey, are you still interested in chatting? And he already responded. So maybe there's something there, maybe not, but at least I opened the conversation again, right? There's a chance. And I think that's the way that I thought about it. So yeah. Well, that brings us to a close in the 10 mistakes. Brooke, we got one more question on your side for Dana before we depart for today.
Yeah. So Dana, again, thanks for being with us today. If you could go back in time, go back to your 25-year-old self and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
When I was 25, I would have just been in this country for 2 years. So the world and everything seemed a lot different than it does today. So I guess what I could say is the sky is not the limit. Because I come from a communist country where it used to be. So a lot of mentality and different societal limits, and just, a different world altogether. That would be probably the best advice I could give myself.
That's great. Well, congratulations. You come to this country and you've built an incredible business and a great brand. And, that's you should be very proud. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dream. It's the American dream. That's why we want awesome people here. So I love it. Well, awesome, Dana. Thanks again for hopping on. We really appreciate it. If anyone listening made it all the way to the end, we need one thing from you. It's a review. So go to your podcast app of choice, leave us a review, click follow or click subscribe. That way you get future episodes of the show. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.